Hello everyone. Good morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Good to see you guys. Good to see you. I'm just gonna set up my Twitter account. Just make sure I can do a live stream on that as well. Give me a second. Hey, hello everyone. Hello everyone. Welcome to the show. So I've just set up my live stream on Twitter as well and on here. So for today's topic, I'm just gonna open up my Twitter. Give me a second. There you go. Making sure you guys can hear me okay. So who have we got today? We've got Alec. Welcome to the show. Biahet, welcome to the show. And yeah, don't be shy, guys. Say hello on the show, and don't forget to like if you can and share. You're welcome to ask me any questions. Only when I finish talking, though, because I find it very difficult to talk and listen to your messages at the same time. So when I finish my talking points, I'll have a bit of a break and I'll take some questions from you guys, and you can ask me there. And when you do ask me a question, just put Q in front of the question, so obviously things will come out, and I can, obviously without checking all the messages, reading all the messages, I can see which ones are asking me a question. Hello, Charles. Hello, VZ. Welcome to the show. Okay, so let's get started, shall we? Obviously, we're going to be talking mainly about Gaza stuff. I'm also going to be talking about President Xi's trip to San Francisco. Going to be talking about Israel's propaganda war and how it's failed so badly and miserably. I'm also going to be talking about Israel's plan to occupy Gaza as well. So, fully packed day today. Lots of talking points. And yeah, a few more hellos. Hello, Anthony Willis. Welcome to the show. Hey, Taiwan's here. Finally caught me on a live stream. Well done, mate. Well done. Kumar's. I'm, I'm not. I'm not gonna say what you just said. So I'll just keep that between you. Anyway, let's start with the show, guys. Welcome to the show. Don't forget to like. It also obviously helps with the algorithm. And let's get started. Come on, let's go. So I want to start with this lady here. A lot of you know Miss what's her name? Rania Khalek. That's it. She's from Lebanon, and she's from Breakthrough News. I'm sure a lot of you pretty are familiar with her. I want to kind of share this video that she sent about Israel's propaganda fail, and I thought it was quite good.
We need to talk about Israel's humiliating attempts at propaganda. Because years from now, historians won't only study the horrors of the Gaza genocide, but also how Israel justified bombing hospitals by presenting us with a calendar.
And I will show you more evidence. In this room, there is a list. This list, in Arabic, this list says we are in an operation. The operation against Israel started in the 7th of October. This is a Guardian list. where every terrorist writes his name and every terrorist has his own shift guarding the people that were here.
That's a calendar. Those are days of the week. The Israelis have Arabic speakers among them who are well aware that these are days of the week. They keep asking us to condemn Hamas, and to that I say, I condemn Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. You're on thin ice. This is the behavior of a genocidal army that has zero proof of its claims that Hamas headquarters happen to be located under every hospital in Gaza. If you thought calendars were Hamas bad, wait until you see the diapers and baby bottles. Cue Daniel Hagari.
And look above this. Look above it. It's a baby bottle. It's a baby bottle in a basement above a World Health Organization sign. Again, we're in the same basement, and here we see diapers.
Then there was the time just a few days earlier when an Israeli lady with bad acting skills pretended to be a nurse in Gaza's El Shifa hospital.
I had to fix a fracture for a 5-year-old boy without morphine because Hamas took it to themselves. Ya Allah.
And let's not forget when the Israeli spokesperson to the Arab world, who, by the way, everyone here despises and laughs at, shared this backstage footage of a Lebanese film as proof that Palestinians are faking their injuries with makeup. They even tried to claim they found Hitler's Mein Kampf in a child's bedroom that's also a Hamas headquarters, because everything in Gaza is a Hamas headquarters. All that bombing, but the book somehow made it out unscathed, almost like it's brand new. The best part is Rifat El-Arir, who is a Palestinian writer in Gaza, tweeted out 20 days earlier that this exact thing would happen, that sooner or later you'd see the Israelis claiming to have found Hitler's books everywhere. So why are they putting out all this easily refutable BS? Well, it turns out when you're committing a genocide, it's actually super hard to justify your atrocities. There's just no amount of propaganda that can counter the countless videos of the suffering of the Palestinians of Gaza. Only a racist who doesn't see Palestinians as humans would accept the carpet bombing of children in their bedrooms, in hospitals, in refugee camps. Only a genocidal sociopath would justify depriving premature Palestinian babies of incubators and oxygen. But the rest.
Okay, you've heard enough, guys. You can see Israel's propaganda there. And I gotta say that it's some of the worst propaganda I've ever seen in my entire life. And this is probably worse than what I've seen in Ukraine. And they must have had some lessons from a couple of propagandists from Ukraine and got some of these ridiculous claims. I mean, the fact that they found this Hitler's book unscathed. This, they're absolutely bombing the whole Gaza. Everything's bombed and destroyed. Yet this book comes out completely unscathed, with no, damage to it whatsoever. None of the pages are burnt, while everything else is pretty much destroyed. You can see the fact that he goes to the hospital and finds a calendar with terrorist names, but they're not terrorist names. These are like day names, Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then he's talking about finding baby bottles and baby diapers. Oh my God. I don't know what's worse. I mean, who do these Israelis think do they think the world is so stupid that they will believe their lies and propaganda? I mean, it does seem like it, and I think a lot of people are falling for it. I think there's a lot of stupid people out there. Sorry to say, there's a lot of sheep out there. People with very small brain cells would probably believe things like that. But absolutely terrible. I mean, if they wanted to go about doing things the right way, right, they would get an independent, they would get somebody independent to go in and verify those claims. Well, no, they're not going to do that, are they? They're not going to send the UN or anybody else independent, because if anybody goes there independent, they will basically find war crimes against Israel, and they'll probably get shafted. So, I mean, in any court of law, right? In any court of law, if you don't have an independent inquiry, this evidence will be thrown out the window. The judge is not going to listen to it. It's like me, if I murder someone and my evidence is basically go around to someone's house, go around to the person I murdered, and I'm walking around with a camera saying, "Oh, look at the wall. There's a calendar there. This person was planning to kill me. Look at that. Looking at this calendar, so I killed him first." Just silly things like that. No, you cannot independently verify things like that. And I've seen some other crazy stuff today. For example, they were shooting a hospital today. They went inside the hospital, started shooting around, evacuated the whole hospital, and they basically got these supplies, medical supplies in English. So first of all, Israelis don't speak English. They speak their own language, which is Hebrew or something, and Arab. And obviously Palestinians speak Arab. So why would these boxes in English saying medical supplies with big letters? Obviously, it was there for the press. They're trying to show people, oh, they are human after all. But the whole hospital has been evacuated. There's nobody left, and they have these brand new baby incubators. But there's no babies. All the babies are gone. They're either dead or people have taken them away. So it's just absolutely ridiculous amounts of propaganda. And yesterday I saw this picture of an Israeli soldier walking an old Palestinian man in Palestine, and he was walking. He was making him cross the road or something. And a few hours later, this old man is found dead on the streets with a bullet wound on his back. So he basically, in front of the cameras, they used him as some sort of propaganda tool to show, oh, they are helping an old person cross the street. And when the cameras were off, they just shot him in the back. It's absolutely sickening, guys. Absolutely sickening. So, do you guys got any questions for me before I continue with the next next stuff? So, who else have we got in the chat? Hey, we got PB. Welcome, PV. Welcome, Rolf. Rolf is here. We need critical thinking. Welcome, mate. Welcome, ODYSEE. And we have OG, Charles Williamson, David King. Welcome, mate. You guys all regulars before. It's good to see you again. So let me continue. So this is Biden's trip, by the way, and I just find this clip so funny. The way Blinken is staring at Biden. And I don't know if you guys watch things like the X-Men or science fiction movies, but it's almost like Blinken is basically controlling what Biden is saying. And if Blinken was a bit closer to Biden, I would probably think that Blinken had his arms at the back of Biden and just moving his lips with his arms, like those puppets and the puppeteers. And it's just so funny the way Blinken is just staring at him and just using his mind control to control what Biden is saying. It's so funny. Watch this.
We've spent many hours together over the last 10 or 12 years, and to host you in the United States is a great honor and a pleasure, particularly as it relates to our summit today. And for the
Look at
APEC leaders
Blinken.
meeting this week. Look, this time of year, about a year and a day ago, we met in Bali on the sidelines of the G20. Since then, key members of our teams have had important discussions on issues matters to both our nations and to the world. But as always, there is no substitute to face-to-face discussions. I've always found our discussions straightforward and frank, and I've always appreciated them. Mr. President, we know each other for a long time.
I just find it so hilarious. Everywhere Biden is, Blinken is not far behind him. And I don't know if you guys saw the Biden's interview when he was on a plane. He was on the Air Force One plane. And Blinken just got out of the toilet, and Biden's obviously having an interview outside the toilet. And Blinken is right inside the toilet looking at. He's just got out of the toilet, and obviously he can't get out because Biden's blocked his entrance. And Blinken is just there staring at Biden's face. I just thought that was hilarious. But there's definitely something going on between these two. I don't know. It's just the way Blinken stares at Biden all the time. I mean, they're having a conversation with their Chinese counterparts here, right? So shouldn't Blinken stare at the Chinese counterparts? It's only polite, right? There's no need to look at Biden 24 hours a day. I mean, yeah, just listen with your ears. There's no need for you to listen with your eyes. I mean, it's just hilarious. Let's move on. So I don't know if you guys follow this guy. His name's Owen, and he came on the PS Morgan show today, and I thought he was quite good. And yeah, I think if you guys don't follow him, I think you should definitely follow this guy, Owen Jones, and he's on a British Novara TV show or something on YouTube, and he's a very, very good guy. I think I kind of follow him, and I kind of agree with a lot of things that he says. So Mr. Morandi has says the UK Parliament voted against calling a ceasefire. Surprise, surprise. The UK government is not going to vote for a ceasefire because you know how the UK government works, right? They will only follow what the United States tell them to do. So if the United States call for a ceasefire, Britain will call for a ceasefire. If the United States boycott the Olympic Games, Britain will boycott the Olympic Games. If the United States suddenly want to be friendly with China, Britain suddenly want to be friendly with China. If the United States wants to ban Huawei, Britain will ban Huawei. You know, every time United States sneezes, Britain's there with the tissue to catch the sneeze. Do you know? This is how Britain's foreign policy works. We're basically puppets of the United States. Everything that the United States do or tell us to do, that's what we do. So this is no surprise that Britain went against a ceasefire, and it doesn't really matter how many million people go to the streets and protest and stuff like that. We will never have our own sovereignty. We will never have our own, foreign policy. And people might say, what was the point of Brexit then? If we're gonna, the only reason we wanted Brexit, or most people wanted Brexit, because they thought they're gonna have their own sovereignty. They're not gonna be pushed over by the Europeans. But they're losing their sovereignty. I mean, yeah, they're getting a bit of freedom from the Europeans, but they're losing their sovereignty when it comes to the US. And now Britain has become an absolute poodle of the US, absolute poodle. And it's really shameful to watch. Whichever leader we get, they just kissing the ass of Biden, and oh my God, it's not worth thinking about. Just this is really funny. I mean, look at Schultz and look at Hitler. They're doing the same thing. And the only thing is, little Schultz is not really a Hitler, and he's obviously missing the mustache, but he's following the same actions. And the funny thing about this clip is he's saying that Israel is a democracy and it acts according to international law. That's what he's trying to argue to the German people. So my reply to this is like, oh please, I really thought Germans were intelligent until I saw Scholz and Baerbock in action. And it's true, guys. I actually thought German people were very intelligent. I thought they were probably the most intelligent people in Europe. I mean, you look at their manufacturing and their power status over the last 20, 30 years. I mean, they have produced some of the best companies in the world, and car companies and manufacturing and technology. You know, German people are very, very clever, very ingenious and stuff. But watching Scholz in action, watching Baerbock in action, it's really disappointed me. It makes me think that, you know, I'm just disappointed with German people. I mean, when you look up to a certain country, you think, oh, these people are so clever, and then they disappoint you. They are stupid as the rest of them. So it's a bit disappointing watching these fools at work, really. So this is the part where they're bringing in all these medical supplies and stuff like that. And you can see these boxes. They're saying medical supplies on it with big writing. Obviously, they're doing it for the press. And again, they're bringing it to a hospital, and this hospital is absolutely deserted. They bombed it. There's nobody there because they evacuated the hospital. They've sent everyone south. So all of this is just it's just Israeli propaganda, and it's fooling nobody. Okay, so what else do we have? Oh, this is a funny picture. This is the United States kissing the boots of the Israeli woman here. And again, the Israeli lobby is very strong in the United States, very strong. And, it was because of the Israeli lobby that United States went into Iraq for the second time. And George Bush Sr., he did not want to go to he did not want to go to Iraq a second time and overthrow Saddam. But his son, George Bush Jr., decided to go in because he was influenced by the Israeli lobby. They said that Iraq was linked to 9/11 and he had weapons of mass destruction. They completely fooled. Obviously, it's not that hard to fool George Bush Jr. I mean, he was a bit of a loony, that guy. And they listened to the Israeli lobby, and they went on this ridiculous Iraq war, lost trillions in dollars. Millions of lives were lost, Iraqi lives. Thousands of American lives were lost. And what was the point? What was the point? And now the Israeli lobby again is pushing the United States into another war in the Middle East. And they're falling for it again for the second time, and the third time, and the fourth time. So these are the Israeli occupiers who have taken over the hospital, and they've put the Israeli flag over the hospital. I mean, this shows that actions such as this shows that these guys are just being occupiers. They don't care about these babies dying. They don't care about patients being cared for or anything like that. All they care about is occupying the hospital and putting the Israeli flag on there. And this shows that these guys are just there as occupiers. They're not there for any other reason. So the Belgian government refuses to review a propaganda video that Israel has produced about Hamas's war crimes. But the Speaker of the Belgian Parliament has rejected it, and they said that we don't want to see this bloody Israeli-produced propaganda film. Any attempt by Israeli ambassador to show a shortened version of the film to the Foreign Relations Committee was met with the sharp rejection on the grounds that it was Israeli propaganda intended to cover up war crimes. So, bit of respect there for the Belgian government. At least some countries are now standing up to these hideous war crimes that Israel is producing. And there are countries out there who are actually standing up. So I thought this story was quite good. China's successfully cultivated fountain grass in the Taklaman Desert, which is helping turn sand into soil. So a bit of information about the Taklaman Desert. And the history of the Taklaman Desert used to be full of water at one point, a long time ago, way before the Indian plates and the Chinese plates merged together. So if you know the history of the world, we've got these tectonic plates, right? And the Asian plate was the Chinese plate, and you have the Indian subcontinent plate, and they merged together. And when they merged together, that's when they formed the Himalayan mountains and all of the big mountain ranges that you see right now next to Nepal and stuff like that. So when two plates obviously collide, this forms these huge mountains. So this is why these Himalayan mountains and everything was formed. But before all of that, Taklaman Desert was part of the sea, and it was full of water. And when those two plates collided and those mountains were formed, what that caused was a lot of the wind, sea wind that comes from the sea, was being blocked by the high mountains, which means a lot of the seawater and moisture wasn't going through to the Taklaman Desert area, and that's why it became very, very dry over the years. And that's why that area became a desert, because it became very dry, and it wasn't, and the winds wasn't really taking the moisture from the sea to the desert. So that caused that desert part to become very dry, and that's why you get the Taklaman Desert. However, because the Taklaman Desert used to be part of the sea, there's a huge amounts of water, groundwater inside the Taklaman Desert. Huge amounts of groundwater. We're talking about a huge ocean underneath all of that sand. So China's basically found a way to get this groundwater up, and they're using it to basically green a lot of the Taklaman Desert areas. And this is what you're seeing here. So yeah, sorry about the bit of a science education there, but I love kind of seeing things like this, turning the desert green and stuff. It's only good for humanity end of the day. So here's another bit of propaganda. Remember I told you about the old man they were trying to help cross the road, and they killed him later on. They did the same with this woman. So this Israeli propaganda video, you can see this man helping this old woman, and then a few hours later you can see her dead, basically. So yeah, so let's not dwell on that too much, but that's kind of evil. So the Americans or the Israelis love to kind of talk about the fact that there was a lot of pro-Israeli people doing demonstrations in Washington, and you can see how many people there were. If you compare to how many people there were in London, we're talking about good million or million and a half people turned up in London, pro-Palestinian marches. And the American papers love to say that, oh, well, we've had just as much people turning up as pro-Israeli, which wasn't true at all. I mean, just look at this picture. It doesn't even come close. I wouldn't even say this is close to even 100,000, probably less than that. And the papers love to kind of say that it's much more. And this guy here, he says Arab people have bigger weddings than this pro-genocide renter crowd. And it's true, probably a lot of them are probably rented by the CIA or paid for shills. And there's a couple of demonstrations in Israel, and you can see these genociders who are the kind of songs they are singing. He says, "You'll never live again because we'll take your heads. You mother effers, you Muslim will kill your brothers. You faggots, we will live in Gaza. You're animals, animals." That's what they're singing. It's kind of sick. These guys, man. Very sick. So another celebrities has kind of stood up for Palestine, and I gave her a bit of a shout out. I don't know if any of you know Alyssa Milano. Alyssa Milano was a famous actress in my time. She was in, where was she in? I don't remember. No, she was in, I think it's some show called Curse. It's about 3 witches, and she was in there, and she was a very good actress actually, and I'm sure she was in a few other films or shows and stuff. But yeah, she came out in support of the Palestinians, so you got to give her a bit of bit of love. So President Xi landed in San Francisco, and a lot of you probably don't realize that San Francisco actually went through a very, very deep cleanup before President Xi's arrival. And we're talking about cleaning up the streets. You know, if anyone's been to San Francisco, the streets are littered with human feces, littered with needles and drugs everywhere. And, you know, so many homeless people are, you know, puking and doing all sorts in the streets. It was just absolutely disgusting. And I mean, I went to San Francisco once. I only stayed there for maybe 2 days. I could not stay more than that. He was so disgusting, guys. Seriously, he was absolutely filthy. And so they went through a big cleanup. And do you see that guy at the back in this picture? That's Mr. Gavin Newsom, I believe. And he was in China a few weeks ago. And he was in China for a good few weeks with his wife. And he got treated like he went all over China, and he was surprised how great China was. He went on the high-speed rails. He was given a ride on a brand new BYD car. He met a lot of business leaders over there, and he was surprised how clean and amazing China was. So he wants to obviously return the favor. He's obviously invited President Xi to come in and visit him in San Francisco. And obviously he wanted to make sure San Francisco is just as clean as China. So he went through a very deep clean process in San Francisco. He got rid of all of the homeless, by the way. The homeless have been given, all of them have been given free hotel stays, and all of their tents and everything got taken away. All the streets have been cleaned, like 3 or 4 times a day they are being cleaned. They're, you know, all, and literally there's so much more security everywhere, and it just looks like a much nicer place. It looks San Francisco looks great, and people are saying that President Xi should visit San Francisco more often because how great San Francisco looks. So President Xi has arrived, and you can see he's shaking hands with Janet Yellen, and Janet Yellen was the first person to greet him. And the reason she's there, as you know, she's the Treasury Secretary, and she's there for only one reason. She wants China to buy US bonds. She wants China to buy US treasuries. That's the only reason she's there. Otherwise, why the heck would she come and meet President Xi? There's no reason. The only reason she's there is she wants China to buy American bonds and give America more money. And as you know, there was a bond sale or a bond auction that happened last week disastrously because nobody was buying US bonds. In fact, everybody's selling US bonds. Countries are just dumping US bonds because they're not worth the paper they're printed on, unfortunately. The amount of debt that the US is having at the moment, and people know that once these bonds mature, US is going to have a really hard time paying off people who have got matured bonds. So Janet Yellen needs China's help to buy more bonds. That's why she's here. And she's the first one to shake his hand. You may have noticed that she's not bobbing her head like she normally does. Those of you who remember her coming to China on a trip, she confused the Chinese with the Japanese or the Korean. She kept like bowing her head. It was so hilarious. And people in the comment sections were like, yeah, all Asians are the same, right? So you just bow your head to every single Asian you meet. So she was, it was quite funny as well. And she also had mushrooms, I believe, in China. And all the Wall Street, New York Post and Washington Post, everybody was saying that she was having magic mushrooms, and this is why she was bobbing her head, because she was hallucinating. Crazy stories, guys. You can see he's landed here. So before I go to the next story, does anyone have any questions for me? So covered a lot. Let's see now. Let's see if there's any nice questions. Zubai said Gavin Newsom is a Democrat's best hope. Yeah, I like the guy. He's very, very good. I think he's if he became America's next president, believe me, I mean America would be so much better off compared to what you have now. But yeah, he's a great guy. He seems very down to earth, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. So yeah, But I think the way it works in America, if you're good at something, you never get promoted. But if you're a puppet, you're bad at your job, you'll get promoted. You'll get put into you become the president because you're easy to control. The only reason Biden's in power because he's old, he doesn't have a mind to think of for himself, and he's easily controllable. And this is why you have Blinken and people like that controlling Biden. And obviously Blinken's being controlled by the neocons. He is a neocon himself, but if they find you easy to control, they will do it. And this is why Trump was a big problem for them, because they couldn't control Trump. They could control him in certain aspects, but not in all aspects. So people like Trump scare the neocons. But yeah, Gavin Newsom seems like a very good guy. Very good. I think he's a better candidate than any of those Republican dimwits that we have. Nikki Haley, that Vivek guy, and who else is there? You got Trump, obviously. You got Santos. Yeah, they all seem like psychos, like a neocon's wet dream. All of them. Anyway, Nikki Haley's the worst. Haley, I don't know what's wrong with her. She's what you call a real psycho with a capital B. She's crazy, that woman. Okay, any other questions? Let's see. Any questions before I go to the next? Oh yeah, so Zuge said human feces, no exaggeration, like India. Yeah, I'm not. I mean, San Francisco is full of homeless people, and where do you think they go to have a toilet? There's no public toilets in San Francisco, so they go around the corner. They do it in the streets at night, and yeah, it's absolutely filthy. It's disgusting. When you walk down San Francisco, some of the busiest streets, the smell is just so bad, so bad. Seriously, I mean, you have to go there to actually see it. There's needles everywhere on the floor, and I can't believe how bad San Francisco was when I went there. It's crazy. It doesn't, you know, when you see San Francisco, like on the movies, Hollywood movies. I remember growing up and I watched a film called Bullet. I don't know if you guys remember a film called Bullet. It had that famous actor in it. I can't remember his name now. He's a very good-looking actor. Very, I'll have to check. Let me Google this. Bullet is called. Oh yeah, here, this one. Let me show you this, guys. I know it's a bit out of topic, but I think it's sometimes to go off topic and go to something a little bit different. There is so much craziness happening in the world, so we need to kind of see it. This film has got the best ever chase scene ever made in a Hollywood movie. And when I watched this film, I was absolutely blown away by how great this chase scene was. And this was filmed in San Francisco. And share screen again. So what are the questions? Before I move on, let's see if there's anyone's got any more questions. And just gonna go down. Remember, if you've got questions for me, put a Q up front, and that way you can stand out. And just gonna go down. So Julian says US will take Xi as a hostage if he visits US. With all the BS US is doing, it's not far-fetched move. Yeah, but I don't think they will do that. Mainly because if they do, then China will declare war against USA. They're not going to mess around. And trust me, United States cannot afford another war right now. They're busy with Ukraine. They're busy with Israel. They cannot afford another war with China right now because they're going to lose everything. They will lose Taiwan. They will lose the South China Sea. Russia is already pissed off, so Russia's probably going to get involved and help China. They will lose the Middle East because China's going to help Iran and the rest of the Middle Eastern countries take out Israel. So there is no way America can get involved right now. Absolutely no way. So they will leave President Xi alone. And I don't think President Xi would have gone to United States if he thought he was in danger in any way. Plus, United States need President Xi. They need China because they're in serious trouble economically. They're in serious trouble around the world. I mean, they are losing so much support. So many countries just do not want to deal with America anymore. So they need China more than China needs America right now. So this is why America's looking to calm the situation down with China. They're trying to de-escalate, not escalate. So I've got a question here from QWERTY. Do you think President Xi should liberate San Francisco? Good question. I think so. I think look, California, San Francisco is a great part of the world. And I've been to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and it's a great part of the world, right? I mean, it's a shame that, what it's become now with all these homeless people and poverty and stuff. But, the history of that area used to be part of Mexico. If you guys go back in history, it used to be all Mexico. And imagine if Mexico held on to California, Mexico would have been the richest country in the world, because one of the reasons America has become so rich because of the gold rush that came out of California, right? The only reason, they got California and they want California from a war with Mexico, so they took over that land. And obviously before the Mexicans, it was obviously the Red Indians that owned it, and they genocided the Red Indians. They killed a lot of Mexicans to get this land, and all this gold and oil that they found in California, they used that to become rich. So if Mexico had that land, they would have been extremely rich. Or I would say that I would go even further back. If Red Indians had the technology back then, when the Europeans moved in to take over America, if Red Indians were technologically savvy, they could have extracted that oil and gold and became rich themselves. But yeah, it's just colonizers taking over the land and taking over the riches, and that's how they've become rich. So next question. Are you shocked how bad Israeli propaganda is? It's unbelievable how bad it is. Yes, I'm absolutely shocked. I mean, Israel must think the world is so stupid coming up with such dumb propaganda. Seriously, I'm just absolutely shocked how bad it is. I mean, either these propagandists are really stupid themselves by doing all this propaganda, coming up with such ridiculous stuff, or they think the world is stupid. Either way, it's just really dumb stuff. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, Alexander, I was going to come to Lord Cameron. So those of you who don't know, we had this crazy woman called Braverman, and she was an absolute racist. Sorry to say that, guys. She was an absolute racist. So she got sacked a few days ago, and she was trying to incite violence and against people who are, you know, doing pro-Palestinian marches, and she was inciting violence, and she went a bit crazy, and she got sacked. So she's been replaced by Mr. David Cameron, and David Cameron is actually very friendly to China. So the golden time when China and UK had good relations was when David Cameron was there. This was the time that she visited London, and David Cameron took him out to a pub, and then he took him to meet the Queen. And things were really good back in those days, right? Back in those days, you know, there was a lot of exchanges between China and UK. Huawei came in. China decided to help UK with the power plants, nuclear power plants, and many investments came into UK from China. Then David Cameron basically he quit the government because of Brexit, and because people voted for Brexit, and obviously he didn't want that, so he decided to quit. And then we had that Boris Johnson guy, and obviously you know the rest. Boris Johnson became an absolute puppet of the West, and he decided to kick out Chinese investments. He started kicking out Huawei because Trump told him to. Started kicking out investments from the nuclear power plant. And the HS2 was originally planned for China to do it as well. I think China quoted UK 30 billion at the time. Only 30 billion at the time China quoted UK. They would have had everything finished by now, but they decided not to go ahead with it once Boris came into power. And now these HS2 lines has gone ballooned to 120 billion. And not only that, they're going to cut half of the line off. They're going to cut the line to Manchester. They've already cut the line to Leeds. They've already cut the line to Scotland. They have already cut the line to many other cities. So it's only going to Birmingham. And it's not even going from London to Birmingham. It's going from outskirts of London, Greater London to Birmingham. So it's not even in central London. So the point is, you know, by the time you go to the station outside London and then you go to Birmingham, it's going to take you longer and it's going to cost you more. And if something's going to cost 120 billion to make, imagine the ticket prices, right? So they're going to have to make this money back. You know, and they're going to have to charge like 400, 500 pounds, maybe £1,000. Nobody's going to pay for these tickets. I mean, trains are going from London to Birmingham just over an hour or just under an hour or around an hour. And people are fine with that. They're not going to pay extra £400 or £1,000 for a train that goes there 10, 15 minutes quicker, because it's not really going 10 minutes, 15 minutes quicker. You're going to have to go outside London first. That's going to take half an hour. Then you're going to take the fast train. And by the time you add the distance door to door, it really is not much faster. So it's just a waste of money, guys. HS2 really is a waste of money. So yeah, England's been an absolute disaster after David Cameron left and Boris took over. So hopefully David Cameron coming back would mean better relations between China and UK again, because he's now the foreign minister. So he's taken over cleverly. So hopefully things might be good between UK and China again. So I'm optimistic on that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, guys, so let me go on with the rest of the stories, and I'll come back to the questions later. Okay, so what other stories do we have? Okay, let's see now. Okay, so we have Qatar ordering all McDonald's restaurants to be closed in Qatar. And this is because Israel has been targeting Qatari journalists, Al Jazeera journalists, and Al Jazeera offices, because Al Jazeera is basically owned by Qatar. and Israel has been targeting Al Jazeera. So obviously Qatar is now not very happy with Israel. So they have ordered all McDonald's to be closed in Qatar. And yeah, these are just small token gestures, guys. I mean, if the Middle Eastern countries really wanted to stop Israel, they would boycott oil right now, today. They would stop selling oil to Israel. They will say, you know what, we're going to boycott all oils being sold to Israel, and we're going to boycott any Israel. And I think if they did that, tomorrow the United States will call Israel up, saying, "All right, get the F out of Gaza now. You know, we can't have another oil blockade, because if an oil blockade happens, petrol prices or gas prices are just going to shoot up by 100%, 200%, maybe 300% overnight, and all the Americans are going to start screaming, all the Europeans are going to start screaming, and this war will end overnight. But unfortunately, the Arab countries are not brave enough to do that. And you can understand why, because last time there was an oil embargo, this happened in the 1970s when there was another Israeli war with the Arab countries. And the last time this happened, the Americans drew up this invasion plan. They were going to invade Saudi Arabia at the time, and if they didn't stop the oil embargo. So obviously these Arab countries are scared that if they do go ahead with this oil embargo, then the Americans will basically, invade their country, and this is probably why they're scared to do it. I think the world is not ready for an oil embargo yet. I think we are still heading towards a multipolar world, and this multipolar world is not ready. The Arab countries will only be brave enough to do an oil embargo if Russia and China decided to take over security for them instead of the Americans, because the Americans control the security in the Middle East. They have bases everywhere. They have bases in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, they have bases in Bahrain, they have bases everywhere except Iran and except no, I think Iran, and Yemen. Yemen and Iran are the only countries America doesn't have bases on, but every other country they have, even including Syria, illegal bases in Syria as well. But every other Middle Eastern countries, America has bases. So you see, it's very difficult for these, Arab countries to suddenly boycott the oil because they have American troops right on their soil. So maybe 10 years time, 20 years time, if Russia and China decided to form a military alliance with these Arab countries, they form a new military alliance with them, kick out all of the US troops, then maybe they'll be brave enough then to have an oil embargo or an oil blockade. But not right now. I think the world is not really at that stage, multipolar world stage. Saudi Arabia is still selling oil in dollars. So is Qatar. So is UAE. So they are still under the US thumb as it stands. So there's not much they can do, unfortunately, apart from these token gestures. So you can see this picture here. Everything is Hamas. They blow up ambulances and they said, oh, it's Hamas. They kill babies in incubators. They call it Hamas. They blow up schools. They call it Hamas. Every excuse is Hamas. So we've talked about that. And you can see Israeli forces going inside the hospital and they're just shooting people around. And they basically evacuated the whole hospital, and including the patients. But where are these patients supposed to go? It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So Trudeau has suddenly grown some balls, and I want to kind of play this for you guys. I was surprised I saw Trudeau actually made this speech, and let me play it for you guys so you can see what he said.
The human tragedy that is unfolding in Gaza is heart-wrenching, especially the suffering we see in and around the Al-Shifa hospital. I have been clear that the price of justice cannot be the continued suffering of all Palestinian civilians. Even wars have rules. All innocent life is equal in worth, Israeli and Palestinian. I urge the government of Israel to exercise maximum restraint. As the world is watching, on TV, on social media, we're hearing the testimonies of doctors, family members, survivors, kids who've lost their parents. The world is witnessing this, the killing of women and children, of babies. This has to stop. J'exhorte le gouvernement.
So you see, guys, I am a little bit impressed with Trudeau's speech here. Maybe he's grown a little bit of balls, or maybe he's had a bit of a conscience or something. And I didn't expect him to make a speech like this. And so, you know, you gotta give due respect to Trudeau. He's kind of gone against his American masters and European masters, and he's basically come out and said this. And his speech has got a reply from Benjamin Netanyahu, and Benjamin Netanyahu has basically personally sent a message to him. And in this message, it says, "It is not Israel that's deliberately targeting civilians, but Hamas." This is the same old excuse every single Israeli says. You know, they blow up a hospital saying, "No, it wasn't us, it was Hamas." They blow up an ambulance. "No, it wasn't us, it was Hamas." They blow up a school. "No, it wasn't us, it was Hamas." They blow up children. "No, it wasn't us, it was Hamas." This is the same old rhetoric that every single Israeli is saying, and is coming from Benjamin Netanyahu. So he says here, "It is not Israel that's deliberately targeting civilians, but Hamas that's beheaded, burnt, and massacred civilians in the worst horrors perpetrated on Jews since the Holocaust." First of all, this story about beheaded babies, that's come false. That's been proved false because Israel has made a list of all of the people that died. And apparently there was only one baby in there. There was no 40 beheaded babies. So that was a lie. Burnt and massacred. Nobody burnt any bodies. Basically, what happened was there was an Apache helicopter on the day, on 7th of October, and that Apache helicopter was shooting anything that moved, and it was missile bombing any cars that moved. So any of these tourists that tried to escape with their cars, they got blown into smithereens by these Apache helicopters. They were just shooting and killing civilians just because they wasn't sure who was running, who was who, and they were just shooting anyone that moved, any cars that moved. They was just burning them, and so they're obviously blaming Hamas for it. And it says here, look, while Israel is doing everything to keep civilians out of harm's way, really? You've killed almost 15,000 Palestinians, mainly women and children, and you're telling me Israel is doing everything to like keep civilians out of harm's way? That's a lot of BS. Hamas is doing everything to keep them in harm's way, really? So you think, see how they're bloody blaming Hamas for everything. So Israel is the one dropping bombs on, you know, women and children, and they're basically blaming Hamas. And this is the same as Germans, right? During the Holocaust, if the Germans started killing all the Jews and stuff like that, and if any Jews stand up for themselves or anything like that, the Germans would be like, "Oh no, you know, it's not our fault we're doing the Holocaust, it's these Jews' fault, it's the Jews' own fault, they're the terrorists, you know, we're just doing our job, it's the Jews' fault that they're being killed in this Holocaust." You know, basically the people that they're dropping bombs on their heads, they're blaming them for their massacre. It's just, if anyone believes this BS that's coming out of Benjamin Netanyahu and stuff. So it says here, it is Hamas, not Israel, that should be held accountable for committing a double war crime. A double war crime. Not a single war crime, a double war crime. Targeting civilians while hiding behind civilians. So make up your mind. Are you targeting civilians or are you hiding behind civilians? Make up your mind. So the forces of civilization must back Israel in defeating Hamas barbarism. Oh my God! So this is Benjamin Netanyahu's reply to obviously like Justin Trudeau. But yeah, well done on Justin for finally growing some balls. But yeah, obviously I still don't like the guy. I still think he's a bit of an idiot. But you got to give him a bit of credit. Okay, so let's move on to the next story. Tulsi Gabbard. I don't know if you remember Tulsi. She was completely against what's happening in Ukraine, and now she's done a complete 180 turn, and she's supporting Israel's genocide. And it's it's crazy how these people turn on you and fool the public, and they try to portray themselves as someone who's standing up for truth and justice and fight for your rights, and but then completely do a 180 turn and become like everybody else. It's just a shame. It's American politics for you, I guess. So let's see what else there is. Oh yeah, I don't know if you've seen this road. This is a mountain road in China. See these roads that have been built inside this mountain. This was created by the farmers that used to live in the villages around this mountain, and they did it with their own hands. And I saw a documentary about this, and basically, so many died doing this. I mean, these were just ordinary villagers. These were ordinary farmers that didn't have tools they have today. So they were basically using very primitive tools, and they were using their bare hands. And so many of them died trying to make this tunnel. And it's on YouTube if you guys check it out. It's called Tai Hang Mountain Tunnel, and if you guys check out, there's a documentary about it on YouTube, and it shows how these villagers got together and made this tunnel, and they basically built this road linking their village to the outside world. And yes, there's so many died doing it, and it's just a really sad story, but it really shows the Chinese character as well, and the fact that even so many people died, they still finished this great road under the mountains. It's a really good story. If you guys get a chance, check it out. I might do a video on it maybe in the future. We'll see. So you can see Israelis here are arresting an Al Jazeera reporter. So if you're press, she's got press written all over her, and they're still arresting her. So there goes the free speech. So Israelis do not want any kind of reporters speaking the truth in Palestine because they know they're losing the propaganda war. So now they're resorting to not only killing like journalists, they're also arresting them as well. So this is the lady, Suella Braverman. So she married a Jew, and you can see what she says here. My husband's a proud Jew and a Zionist. He lived in Israel. We have a family in IDF. So her roots are in India. So she's Indian, and he's basically Jewish. And this is why she's become very pro-Israeli. And one of the reasons why she got sacked. So this is Benjamin Netanyahu again, talking a lot of crap. Oh, by the way, guys, I don't know if you guys did this, but this is a flying wingsuit, and when I visited China last time, I actually did this, and it was one of the greatest like moments of my life. So when I visit China again, I'm definitely going to do this again, and I definitely recommend any of you guys to do this and have a look. I mean, this is like one of the best experiences I've ever had. But I didn't jump this high, by the way. My jump was much lower. I don't think I can do it from this high. This is so scary. But I mean, you can just have a look at this experience. So, but this is called a wingsuit, and you basically, it's the next closest thing to flying. You just basically glide along the sky, and you do have a parachute as well. And yeah, it's just a great experience, one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life. I'm definitely doing it again. If anyone wants to join me, if I come back to China, you're welcome to join me. And yeah, it's one definitely well recommended. So let's see. So let's go back to questions again, and then I'll go back to stories. Does anyone have any questions for me? So let's see now. Hey, CA's back. Well, welcome back, my friend. Welcome back. So what questions do you have for me? So to clarify, the main issue with the US dollar bonds is not its contrast with interest rates, but the confidence of getting the expected return. That's correct. Yeah. So if you bought US dollar bonds, say a couple of years ago or 5 years ago, your yields would be very, very low compared to what it is now. I mean, the yields are closer to 1% if you bought them 5 years ago, and the yields are much closer to 5% now, or maybe higher. But yields are much higher right now. So if you bought bonds when the yields were very low, you would get a very high return when these bonds mature. And so a lot of these bonds are actually maturing as we speak. Every single week or month, there's always new bonds maturing. And there's over $1 trillion worth of bonds which are due to be matured over the next year or two. And United States does not think it has the money to pay off these bonds. Already Japan is owed a lot of money because Japan has got a lot of bonds that have matured, but America hasn't really paid them back yet. So they pretty much told Japan kind of IOU kind of thing. And this is why Japan has been selling a lot of bonds. So is China as well. And countries do not have the confidence that America would be able to pay off these bonds when these bonds become mature. So the problem is, if you buy bonds right now when the yields are very, very high, the chances of you getting the same return is very low. So if you go from yield very low 5 years ago, 1% to 5%, you can 5x, depending on depending on your kind of yield return and how much you can get for it, but you're able to make a much bigger profit. But if you buy the bonds now when the yields are so high, you're taking a big risk, because there could be a risk that these yields will start falling, and if these yields start falling, then you will make a loss of these bonds. And there is a chance these yields can fall, because the only reason these yields are very high at the moment is because the interest rates are high. So when the government will start to pivot, and the word pivot means when they start lowering these interest rates, this is when the government bonds get higher and the yields become lower. So there's a big risk there. If you buy the yields right now, you'll probably lose money if you buy bonds right now. So this is one of the reasons why not many countries are buying bonds, is because it's a huge risk. And this is why it's become a disaster. Their bond auction last week is an absolute disaster. So I hope that answers your question. And this is why China's selling bonds as well, because they're not really worth the money they've been printed on. Same with all the other countries. And I think people realizing that the dollar is not going to last long, guys. And the amount of debt that the US government owes to the outside world, other countries, they're not going to be able to pay back. I mean, you have to be realistic. I mean, they're almost 34 trillion in debt right now, and this is growing extremely fast. It was 33 trillion last month, so every month is going up by a trillion. So things are not looking good for the US economy, for the dollar. So I think if you are a country that wants to be independent from the dollar, you don't want to be, if you don't want your economy to be affected when the US dollar crashes or when the US economy crashes, then you need to get rid of as many bonds as you can, because the country with the most American bonds, if the US dollar crashes or the American economy crashes, then you are at risk. So China's doing the right thing, selling off these bonds, and they can't do it fast enough, because the problem is you can't sell bonds unless you buy for them. So this is why it's taking so long. It's taking a long time. It's a slow process. It's like a car, right? You cannot, you can only sell your car if you find a buyer for it. If you drive a sports car, there's not many buyers. You can only find a buyer who's rich, who can afford a sports car. So these bonds are obviously very expensive. So you can only find good buyers, or people that are willing to pay for it. But yeah, hope that answers your question, CA. But yeah, good question. Let's see what other question there is. PB, let's catch PB. How you doing, my brother? What do you think USA is offering Xi? He wouldn't go to the US if they weren't making big concessions, Taiwan related. Yeah, well, this is my two takes. I think President Xi is not going to United States for Biden. He's actually going for Gavin Newsom, because Gavin Newsom was in China, as you know, a few weeks ago, and he was there for a few weeks, and I think he made a sort of a deal with President Xi, and they want to have a good relationship. And he also mentioned that it'll be a good idea for President Xi to come to San Francisco at this APEC meeting, and there'll be a lot of business leaders there. He can have one-to-one conversation with them. So President Xi is actually going to APEC for the business side of things. He's not going there to meet Biden. He's not going there for bonds. He's not going for any other reasons except for China's interests. And obviously, Biden's heard about President Xi going to the APEC meeting. So Biden pretty much forced himself in to have a meeting with President Xi. But I think this is just a token gesture. I think basically this is all for the cameras. Biden obviously wanted this meeting with President Xi, and Biden obviously wants to get as many concessions from China as possible. He wants concessions like he wants President Xi to buy bonds. He wants President Xi to sort out some deals regarding fentanyl. He wants President Xi to reopen the military talks between USA and China. And also he wants President Xi to make, basically guarantee he's not going to sell weapons to Russia, and many other things. There's a big list of things America doesn't want China to do. But whether China does it or not, it really depends on Biden. I think for President Xi to trust Biden, Biden's got to have to do a lot of things. He's going to have to get rid of all of the sanctions deals. He's going to have to get rid of many of the sanctions America has put on China over the years, and this includes semiconductor sanctions. He's going to have to get rid of all of the tariffs on Chinese products and goods. He's going to have to obviously stop selling weapons to Taiwan, stop pushing for Taiwanese independence. He's going to probably want the US to stop interfering in the South China Sea as well. So China will want a lot of things from the United States if they want China to cooperate. But personally, I don't think anything will come out of this meeting. because give it a day or two, and Biden will probably say something stupid, like calling him a dictator or something, or he'll say something stupid. I'm sure of it, and he'll just destroy everything that he built again. And I think this is just purely a token gesture, just for the cameras and the journalists. But if United States wants to be serious, they need to start dropping these sanctions. And China can happily go about doing their normal day-to-day business with the sanctions. So China doesn't care if America drops these sanctions or not, because these sanctions have been in place ever since Trump was there. So China is pretty much used to these sanctions now. It's been like how many years now? 4 or 5 years. I think when Trump was there, China was a bit, obviously worried about how these sanctions would affect China and stuff like that. But now they're not worried anymore, because China is basically diversifying, they're decoupling with the United States, and they're basically diversifying their portfolio to other countries. And with everything that's happening around the world, with Ukraine, with Israel, a lot of the global South countries are now moving their businesses to China. For example, all of the Middle Eastern countries, they're all taking money out of Western countries and putting it into China. Because I was looking at the foreign direct investments in China for the past 6 months or so, and this is within the last 6 months, and you'll see a big decline in foreign direct investments from Europe and a big decline from America. But there is a very sharp increase from countries in the Middle East. There's a sharp increase from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Iran, UAE. These Middle Eastern countries are pouring huge amounts of money into China, and they're taking out a huge amounts of money out of Western countries. And I mean, I live in UK, and I have a lot of friends who are working in the state agencies. So previously, a lot of Arabs used to own a lot of properties in London. For example, some of the most expensive properties in Hyde Park, Park Lane, all of the apartments around Park Lane, 80-90% of them were owned by Arabs, and a lot of them used to be owned by Russians, but the Russians have actually left, and they've moved a lot of the assets to UAE and other countries friendly towards Russia. They're also moving a lot of the assets towards China. So there's a lot of Russian millionaires and billionaires now moving to China. And now a lot of Arabs are selling their properties all over London. And my friends who work in estate agents are telling me that, AJ, bro, they're saying, all these Arabs are basically putting their properties up for sale all over London. And it's a huge number. We're talking about thousands of Arabians are basically putting their properties in London, because they know London is going down these days. There's no point, there's no point leaving your money in a country that's going down. The economy is going down. England is not moving. It's very close to having its recession. And so a lot of Arabs are now starting to invest in the Far East, in China. So China's fine as it is. It's Americans that need China at the moment. And that's the issue. That's where we are. And let's see if there's any other questions. Charlie Williamson, are the lights preparing? Oh, give me a second. I've got one person on the line who might want to. Hello, welcome to Twitter. Do you have any questions, my friend, before I continue? Mr. Tetekin? You're welcome to speak. If not, I'll just continue with the rest of the questions. No? Okay, I'll continue then. Are the lights preparing for micronova? Micronova, I'm not sure what you mean, brother. I'll come back to you on that. I'll have to investigate a bit more on that. So CA says, so to clarify, the main issue with US bonds it's not contrast with interest rates, but the confidence of getting the expected return. Oh, I've already answered that. So next one. BP oil gas offshore Gaza Strip. UK PM invested with BP. Question: what are the chances of developing industry for Israel, and how will it affect the balance? Yes, that's correct. So there is an offshore oil that has been found along the Gaza Strip, and it's quite a lot of offshore gas as well. We're talking about, I think somebody's mentioned about 500 billion worth of gas. So it's a huge amount we're talking about. And I believe it's not a coincidence that Israel is going into Gaza for this gas. And all of it started from last year. So last year, remember when the European countries were going around the world begging countries for gas, because obviously they want to, Nord Stream 2 got blown up. They wasn't getting the same gas from Russia via the pipeline anymore. And they were getting very expensive LNG from United States and other countries, and they were going around the world begging other countries for gas. And one of the countries they started begging to was Israel, and they made a deal with Israel, and Israel promised them they would provide the Europeans with the gas that they need. But these gas fields were basically in the Gaza Strip. So this was way before this invasion happened. And people were asking the question, how are you going to get that gas from the Gaza Strip? And Benjamin Netanyahu said at the time, "Oh, we will find a way. Don't worry." And then obviously a year later, you've seen what's happening now. They've gone into Gaza. Israel have already said they're going to occupy Gaza. So they said that they're going to go into Gaza, get rid of Hamas, and they will occupy Gaza. And it was always about the gas end of the day. It was always about money. It's always about gas. No country's going to invade another country if it's not beneficial to them in a monetary sense. Like America is not going to go invade North Korea because North Korea's got no money, right? They've got no natural, well, they do have natural resources, but they don't have oil or gas or anything like that. And but they would easily go and invade Iraq because Iraq's got a lot of oil and gas. And the only reason they invaded Afghanistan is because Afghanistan has got trillions worth of mineral riches. We're talking about lots of rare earths and lithium, and Afghanistan is actually one of the richest countries in the world when it comes to minerals. And in terms of location, Afghanistan was a perfect location for the United States. It was right in the middle of where the action was. It's next to Iran. It was next to Russia. It was next to India. It was next to Pakistan. It shared a border with China. So Afghanistan was like a perfect military post for the United States. So this is why they went into Afghanistan. So if it's not in your interest, then you wouldn't really go into any country. So obviously all that gas is good for Israel, and then they could sell it to Europeans. And this is why the Europeans are very quiet, because they know this. They know that Israel is going to Gaza for the gas. So this is why the Europeans are absolutely silent on what's happening with the genocide. They're not saying anything because they know it's in their interest as well for Israel to go into Gaza and take that gas. Same with America. America knows. So these Western countries are very complicit, but they know the score. People like myself know. There's a lot of other people know the truth, but most of the world are still sheep. They don't really know the true story. But yeah, that's well done for picking this up. So you are one of the few critical thinkers out there. So well done, mate. So let's see what others questions there is. Christine Speech says, do you think USA got the poop off the streets that she was coming in on? Yes, I believe so. There's a lot of videos and images coming out of San Francisco, and I've actually got friends in San Francisco, and they're telling me the whole place looks spotless. They have cleaners cleaning the streets 3-4 times a day at the moment, and all the homeless people have been put into hotels just until a week, I think, and they've been given free hotels. They've been told to stay off the streets, but yeah, they have cleaned all the poop by the sounds of it. So what other questions do we have? Just going down. So Christian Peach has said Israel lied and killed their own people, then blamed Hamas. Yes, that's from all the evidence that's been shown. For example, the Apache helicopter shooting their own people, blowing up their own cars. It does look like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if this was some sort of false flag event, and just to give them an excuse to go into Gaza. So just checking if there's any other questions, but it doesn't look like any other questions, guys. Oh, hang on, a bit more. Got so many of you talking, it's really hard to. Oh yeah, there's a question here. So Mr. Zubai said, why did Xi agree to meet Biden, who is more isolated than ever? Is a matter of keeping your friends close, your enemy closer. Yeah, I mean, look, I've explained myself in a previous video. Biden is in a lot of trouble right now for supporting Israel. He is isolating United States. Like United States have never been this isolated in the history of the United States. The Arab countries literally can't stand Biden. When Biden went to Israel, he wanted to meet all the Arab leaders as well. All the Arab leaders basically refused to see Biden at the time. And you can see all the Arab countries are now taking their money out of United States. They're taking their money out of Europe, and they're now reinvesting everything in China and the global South and Asia, Russia even. I don't think the United States will be able to recover from this. I mean, this is going to have a huge amounts of repercussions. The Arab world is already moving towards a multipolar world, and one step at a time, you will see these Arab countries start selling oil and gas in other currencies, which is not petrodollar. And this is going to start happening one country at a time. These countries will stop relations and trading with Israel and United States and Europe as well, because they can see the double standards, right? And if United States or Europe ever go to these Arab countries ever again preaching about human rights, they're just going to be laughed at in their face. Because even a few years ago, you had, Ursula von der Leyen traveling to Middle Eastern countries and trying to get off a high horse and said, "Oh, our main values are human rights. We support human rights above anything else. Our foreign policy, number one thing is human rights. If you don't have good human rights, we will not trade with you." And now all of these, European leaders and American leaders, they've all shown themselves to be absolute hypocrites. I mean, who's going to believe them now? And so this is why you have Arab leaders now. They're just taking their money out of the West, and they're going to start investing in the East. And one thing after another, this is just going to cause the dollar to diminish. And less countries use the dollar. That means the dollar value is going to go down. And this is going to cause huge amounts of hyperinflation in the United States because there's a huge amounts of dollar being circulated around the world. So if all these countries stop using the dollar, all these dollars are going to start flooding back to the United States, and it's going to cause hyperinflation. And once that causes hyperinflation, you're going to see riots in the street, because when you have hyperinflation and milk and bread start costing 100 times more than it does today, people are going to be rioting in the streets. They're going to be ransacking supermarkets and stuff. It's going to be an absolute disaster. So that's all of that could still happen. And yeah, so I think Xi is meeting Biden, not for, he knows nothing will happen from it, but it's kind of friendly gestures, a token gesture, basically. Obviously, he's in America. He doesn't want to make any enemies. If he refused Biden, then you would have seen a lot of newspaper headlines saying Xi refused to meet Biden, and it would have given President Xi a lot of bad publicity while he's in America. So he doesn't want that. So he had to kind of say yes to Biden. But he knows nothing will come out of it. He knows Biden's a fool. Give it another day or two, Biden will say something stupid, and it's going to go back to square one again. He knows nothing will happen out of it. It's only for a token gesture, just for the cameras, just for the media. But yeah, it's all about actions end of the day, not words. So any other questions, guys? Let's see. Let's go down. Don't forget, if you got questions, just put Q in front of your message so I can pick it up. Can't see any other questions, so I might go back to Twitter again and see what the stuff there is. Okay, I can't see any questions. So I'm going to go to Twitter a bit more, and then I'll come back for questions again, and then we'll kind of put it at the end. So let's see, what have we got? What are the stories? Okay, and then present. Yeah, so remember that old guy I was talking to you about? So this is that old guy. So you can see from this picture, it looks like an Israeli was basically helping him cross the street, and, you know, arm by arm, trying to make it look like he's being friendly. But this old man was found 2 hours later dead with a bullet wound at the back. And this is how the Israelis work, guys. Absolutely sneaky. So you can see Israeli state media shows this image of an IDF soldier helping an elderly Palestinian man across the street. These soldiers then killed him with 2 shots in the back. His daughter found his corpse dumped on the ground. So you can see, like, for the cameras, they'll do one thing, but once the cameras are off, you know, they're back to their evil selves again. So I'm just going to talk about this. American bases who are illegally stationed in Syria, and a lot of American bases illegally stationed in Iraq. I say illegally stationed in Iraq because the Iraqi government actually they basically voted for all the US troops to be voted out. So the government basically said, you know, they basically all agreed that they should get rid of all the American troops. But the Americans refused to get out of Iraq, even though the Iraqi government told them to leave. So they are there illegally in Iraq, and they are there illegally in Syria as well. However, there was an attack on these American troops in Iraq, I believe, and 5 American soldiers died, and there's around 40 American soldiers injured. And these attacks, these bases are being attacked almost every single day. And the reason these Iraqi bases need to be there is because they are smuggling oil from the Syrian bases. They are smuggling not only oil, but they're also smuggling agriculture as well, wheat and things like that. So they're taking it out of Syria, and they have to go through Iraq, right? So this is why they cannot leave Iraq. So they are stealing from Syria, and they are moving these goods into Iraq bases, And from the Iraq bases, they take it to the ships, and these ships basically go through the Strait of Hormuz and into the Indian Sea, and then they either go back to the US from there, or they go to one of their other friendly 800 bases they have around the world. So this is why they need those bases in Iraq. They can't get rid of them, because if they get rid of these bases in Iraq, those troops in Syria are in serious trouble because they have no reinforcements. They got nowhere to go, and they'll be basically sitting ducks. So those Iraqi bases need to be there, and this is why the Syrian bases are there. And this is not going to last for too long, guys, because every single day these bases are being attacked by missiles, by drones, and these soldiers who are stationed there, they're just sitting ducks, just waiting to be attacked, really. And I mean, what they're going to do? Are they going to go out, start bombing the rest of Iraq like they did? Are they going to start bombing Syrian cities everywhere, start killing more people? This is just going to enrage the Middle East even more. And obviously, USA doesn't want to escalate things. So they're just sitting there in their bases and taking these attacks. And I think they're waiting for the day when there is a major attack on one of these bases and a huge amounts of US soldiers die. Then they might do something. But yeah, to be honest, guys, this is an absolute disaster for the US. And I think the US really did not want Israel to start doing what it's doing right now, because the Americans do not need this right now, especially now with the economy so bad, and they have a lot of interest in Ukraine. Ukraine has been completely forgotten about as well. So it's turned out to be a massive nightmare for the United States, because they wanted to get away from Middle East. You know, I remember when he was Obama, and Obama said, we're going to get out of the Middle East and we're going to pivot to Asia. And they slowly started to move their bases, out of the Middle East and start focusing on China. But now, over the last few years, they're just moving back into the Middle East. And I do not think the United States wanted this. They're just being forced back into fighting more wars in the Middle East. And this is the last thing they wanted. So it's turning out to be an absolute nightmare for the United States at the moment. This is quite funny. Let me show you this.
Okay, please give us a credit. If you can't give us,
Go away.
can't give us some financial. Okay, please give us a credit. If you
Oh my god, it's so funny. But this is basically a clip of this old woman who was basically attacking this guy because he parked his car, and she was asking for money, and she went a bit crazy. But they put Zelensky's face, and they put Zelensky's voice in there. But Zelensky basically came out a few days ago asking for money from the world. And he's so desperate, right? He says, if you cannot give us money, just give us credit. He was like, just lend us some money, we'll give it to you back. It's so funny. He's almost like, he's worse than a beggar, you know? It's just, you're not going to get that money back, because if Ukraine loses and Russia wins the war, every money that you've basically put into Ukraine, you're not going to get that back, because if Ukraine unconditionally surrenders to Russia, Russia can pretty much do whatever it wants. And if Russia wants a new government, they can have a new government, and this new government is going to come in place, and they're going to tear up all the previous agreements with the West and start from new, and all the money that's been basically poured into Ukraine will just disappear overnight, and there's nothing they can do about it. Okay, let's move on. So you can see these one-sided stories where Israeli, IDF members basically shooting Palestinian schoolgirls, and these guys are getting away with it. They're just, this guy got acquitted from all charges, so nothing will happen to him. Yeah, it's just, it's crazy how they treat these Palestinians. Palestinians are being killed not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank every single day. And yeah, they're really going for this genocide thing. They're literally killing as many Palestinians as they can. So China's launched the world's fastest internet, 1.2 terabits per second. I mean, in UK, we're lucky to get 100 megabytes here. And we get 0 megabytes when we're on the train. When I'm on the underground, I get no signal whatsoever. So I have to sit on the train sometimes to go to work, staring at people's faces because I've got nothing better to do. So I'm just sitting there watching people's faces and watching everyone, looking at everyone, and everyone's looking at me, everyone's looking around, so bored. And we're talking about half an hour to get to work as well. So I'm just sitting there looking at people's faces for a whole hour. And it's absolutely disgusting we have no internet on the trains, underground trains. We do get 1 second of internet when we stop when the train stops at the station. The station has some sort of internet, so you might get internet for like 1 second. And what I do with my phone during that 1 second, I go to a website called News Now, and if I refresh that website at that second when I have internet, it gives me a list of all the main stories of the day. So when the train moves again, I can basically look at all the main stories of the day, and I can see the main headings, and that's about it. And that's enough for me. I don't need to read the whole article. I just need to know what's happening. So I just read the headings. So that kind of lasts me until I get to the next station. Then I refresh again, and I get a different stories and stuff. So yeah, that's my day. But it's crazy, England's internet, and especially after Huawei got kicked out. There's no 5G here. There's no true 5G in UK. We have 4.5G, maximum 100 megabits, maybe even 150, but that's about it. But when you hear stories that China's got 1.2 terabits per second, imagine what you can do with that. I mean, if you're a business and you're running at those speeds, imagine how much money you can save, or how much money you can make with that much with that kind of speed. It's unbelievable. It's crazy. It's crazy how fast things are in China and how slow things are in the West. We really are kind of, yeah. It's like a third world country the West is turning into, and the global South is now overtaking the Western countries in terms of infrastructure, internet speed, and many other things as well. So let's move on. Oh, this is good. China is basically becoming carbon peak 7 years early than expected. So China originally said that they're going to be carbon peak, which means that's the year that China is going to make the most carbon dioxide, and after that, carbon dioxide will start going down. So China said they're going to be on the peak on 2030. However, they've announced that they have reached peak 7 years earlier. So 2023, they have reached peak now. So every year from now on, China is going to have less and less carbon dioxide, which is good because from December this year, China is going to be implementing a ban on petrol cars. So no new car company can sell petrol cars in China. And I'm talking about combustion engine cars. So no car company can sell these cars, which means electric cars are going to be taking over China, and these gas cars or combustion engine cars are slowly going to be, sold out, or people are going to start converting to electric cars. So this means that there's going to be less carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. This also means China buys less oil from the outside market as well. So they don't have to buy these high-priced oil right now from Saudi Arabia and all these other countries. So China will have to pay less oil, which means they're not going to be dependent on oil as much, which means it's good for China's economy because they don't have to pay these oil in US dollars. And so China will, from December this year, things will get better, not only in the climate side of things, in the environment, but also in the petrodollar things, the way as well. So if China buys less petrodollar world, they become less dependent on oil. So they don't have to hold too many dollars as well, because one of the reasons China holds so many dollars is because they need those dollars to buy petrol, they need those dollars to buy gas, they need those dollars to buy goods that are from America, like agricultural products like soybeans and all these other stuff. So they need they need dollars basically to buy that. So if they have to buy less oil, they don't have to keep as many dollars. They can get rid of those dollars or sell them off. And this means China is less dependent on the dollars. They become less dependent on oil. And if there's a war scenario, for example, if there's a war over Taiwan, one of the ways that United States could throttle China is to basically stop all oil and gas going into China. So if China requires less oil, they can cover it themselves, because China is also an oil producing country as well. They produce a lot of oil from the Taklamakan Desert and the Bohai Sea, for example, and also the South China Sea near Hainan. There's a lot of oil fields as well. So that would be enough for China to kind of have enough oil for a war scenario situation, because they do not have to import as much oil from the rest of the world, because most of the cars are going to be running on electric. The manufacturing is all moving towards electric as well. China is, and renewable energies, for example, solar, wind power, hydroelectric, nuclear. Every year there's a nuclear power plant or two coming online. So I think as these years go along, China will be less and less dependent on oil, on natural gas, and on fossil fuels, and the less control the West will have over China, over its foreign policy, over wars, things like that. And also great for the environment as well. If China burns less fossil fuels, then that's good for Chinese environments as well. So yeah, it's good news that China's reached its peak, and it's only downhill from here in terms of producing carbon dioxide. And also China is producing, like turning a lot of their deserts into agriculture as well. A lot of the deserts, I think China used to be 21% greenery back in the 70s, and now they've been building so many trees all over China, and they are now 40% covered with trees now, and they are looking to cover 50% by 2030, and that's a lot of trees that have been harvested. I think there's billions and billions of trees they've been planting over the years. But yeah, it's all coming together now for China. Okay, so there's a story about Qingdao. Qingdao would be in the event of a war, if South Korea and Japan started, having a war with China, Qingdao would be one of the biggest cities that's going to be affected, because Qingdao is within striking distance of Japanese missiles and South Korean missiles and South Korean planes and Japanese planes. So Qingdao would be the main focus of any aggression. So I just found this article be interesting, actually. So let's see what other stories we have. So this is quite funny. So this is Piers Morgan. I don't know if you know Piers Morgan, and he was interviewing Mr. Corbyn, Jeremy Corbyn. And Jeremy Corbyn used to be the leader of the Labour Party before Keir Starmer came into power. And one of the reasons he got sacked is because he was very pro-Palestinian and he was against Israeli occupation. And because he said that in public, he got fired because Israeli lobby is very strong in the UK as well. So so I want you to kind of listen to this, and you can see Piers Morgan basically telling him, does he condemn Hamas? And he must have said it like 10, 15 times or something, I think, or maybe even 17 times. It's quite, and sometimes when you look at Piers Morgan, he's an absolute joke, this guy. I mean, he's English, but he's obviously got no brains. And you kind of think to yourself, how did he get to this position with a brain of like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old? Because he's absolutely made himself look like an idiot. So watch this anyway.
Discussion.
Can you call them a terror group? Jeremy?
Can we have a discussion?
Can you call them a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion?
Are you prepared to call Hamas a terror group?
Is it possible to have a rational discussion with you? Is it possible? Come on, answer that question.
You can't, can you?
You answer it.
No, it's my show. You answer my question. Are Hamas a terror group?
Listen, can I?
Are they a terror group?
Piers, can I speak?
Answer the question.
Can I speak?
Are they a terror group?
Piers.
No, no.
If you let me speak,
Are they a terror group?
If you'll let me speak, I'll say something.
Go on then.
A ceasefire means both sides.
You said that. Are they a terror group?
Listen,
Oh my God.
I said that.
Are they a terror group?
Oh my God, shut up.
Are they a terror group?
Can we go?
Why can't you say it?
Piers, can we go through what ought to be happening?
Just answer my question.
Why do you think
Are Hamas a terror
nations
group?
in the world are calling for a ceasefire?
Are
Why do you
Hamas
think
a
they
terror
are?
group?
Come on, answer that. Give it to me.
No,
You've
it's
got
not
so many-
your show.
You've got so many opinions.
Why should I
All
answer
the
yours
time
when
and
you
every
won't
day.
answer mine?
Why do you give out your opinions all day and every day?
Are Hamas?
You don't like it.
Are
when somebody
Hamas?
Oh my
pushes
God,
back
is
on-
that all he
Hamas
can
a terror
say?
group? Yes or no?
Well, you won't like it when somebody
Yes or
pushes
no?
back on you. What I've said is,
I've asked you 2 questions. Should Hamas stay in power and are they a terror group? You're refusing to answer either of them. That is very telling. And you wonder,
it's not very
and you
telling at all.
wonder
It's
why
not-
people think you had a
it's
problem
not
with
very
Jewish
telling
people.
at all.
Right?
It's
You
very
wonder.
telling.
So you can see, guys, you know how stupid Piers Morgan is. I mean, all he does is say to him, is Hamas a terror group? And he must have said it like 15, 16 times already. And it's kind of tiring. You know, when you have these journalists, at least have a bit of intelligence. You know, just have a bit of intelligence. Don't be pro this or pro that. Just be neutral and let the people speak. I mean, he's brought these guys on his show. Let them speak. And he's just completely speaking over them, not letting him talk. And he keeps like throwing this is Hamas a terror group in his face every few seconds. I mean, that's not really how you would act as a journalist or a talk show host. You bring in guests and you let them talk. You ask them a question and let them talk. It's because it's all about their views. So it's kind of got me angry when I saw that, actually. Schwarzenegger there. Oh, Mr. Ian Duncan Smith. So I made this query to Ian Duncan Smith. So President Xi has gone to America. Every time anything happens with China, he comes on the British talk shows to give his 2 cents. So he's talking about genocide in China. He's talking about Xinjiang and how there's a genocide going on. And I replied saying, this guy must think people are stupid accusing China of genocide while a real genocide is happening in Gaza. So he's completely ignoring what's happening in Gaza and he's talking about Chinese genocide and stuff. And he must think people are really dumb. Because if you think about it, right? If you think about it, people living in that part of the world, like Uyghurs have mobile phones, right? So if there was a genocide going on in China, I'm sure they would have filmed it, posted it all over Twitter, like you see what's happening in Gaza. And then people will be like up in arms saying, oh my God, what's happening? But you're not going to see one image of any genocide in Xinjiang. You're not going to see any image of any Uyghurs posting anything, any sort of genocide going on in China, because there isn't any. We're living in an information age. We're living in an age where people have mobile phones. And if you try to genocide someone, any part of the world, you're not going to get away with it, because these images are going to be posted everywhere in social media and people will see it. And And this is what's happening in Gaza. That's why you see so many images of dead babies and children and women being killed. And this is real genocide going on. This is what you call genocide. Extinguishing, uh, 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 extinguishing a huge, basically a race, Palestinian race out of existence. They're killing them. They're displacing them. These people have got nowhere to go. Most of them are refugees now. They're going to have to leave the country. Their homes are destroyed. Everything's they've had is destroyed. That is genocide. And this guy is talking about Chinese genocide. Well, there's a real one going on right in front of our eyes. Oh, it's crazy. So I think that's I think I spoke a lot, guys. So let me know if there's any other questions, and I think I'll call it a day. So I'm just gonna scroll up and see if any of you have got any questions for me. So first of all, hope you enjoyed the show. A lot of talking points. Let me know if there's any questions, and we can have a few more questions, and we'll exit. So Hang Chua says 1 million Uyghurs in camp when West cannot find a home to house 400,000 homeless. Exactly. But I think the numbers are 3 million Uyghurs. I think a lot of these Uyghur Congress people, they're saying there's 3 million Uyghurs in concentration camps. 3 million Uyghurs, that's bigger population than the people in Gaza. In Gaza is 2.2 million people. And the population of London is 6 million or something. So we're talking about half a population of London in concentration camps. I mean, that's not even possible, right? I mean, USA has got 2 million people incarcerated in prisons. So we're talking about 3 million people here, more than the prison population in all of the United States combined. And you can imagine how many serial killers and rapists there are in America. So these numbers don't add up. They don't make any sense. Imagine the amount of money that's required to house these people, feed these people. It's crazy. Nobody has any brains to think like that. So what are the questions you have? If we have no more questions, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Oh yeah, we have questions from Rolf. What will Lord Cameron be a lord of? No idea. I'm not sure. I don't think he'll be a lord, though. I don't think so. I don't. Mainly because I think, yeah, I don't think he's going to be liked very much because he's a very pro-China guy. So he's going to want to make good relationships with China. And anyone that knows anything about the British Parliament, most of them are going to be anti-Chinese hawks, so they're not going to like it. So his name is not going to be put forward for any lordships, I believe. I think they'll probably want him out if he tries to have good relationships with China and stuff. They'll probably say get out and stuff. But you can see with the warming that's going on between the United States and China at the moment, with Biden and Xi meeting up, I think there might be some sort of warming relationship going on with UK and China over the next few weeks. And this is probably why Cameron's been brought on, because the United States cannot afford to have 3 wars, one in Ukraine with Russia, one in the Middle East with the Middle Eastern countries, and another one with China. It doesn't matter how powerful you are as a country, you cannot fight 2 superpowers and the Middle East as well at the same time. And Russia is a superpower. And yeah, impossible. So I think something's got to give. So I think this is why they're trying to mend their relationships with China right now, because they are just too focused with Russia and Middle East right now. So I think things might improve between Britain and China. And this is probably why David Cameron's been brought in, just for the China relationship. Hopefully he can improve it. But he's not going to win any friends, I can tell you that now, because there are a lot of anti-Chinese hawks in the parliament, and they will hate him for it. But we'll see what happens. And checking if there's any other questions. No, that's it, guys. I think that's all the questions. Thank you for listening, guys. Thank you for taking your time to join me on the live chat. I really appreciate it. Thanks to all the moderators, the usual guys. And yeah, thanks Critical Thinking. Thanks Rolf. Thanks Taiwan. I'm just going to go through the list and thank you guys. Thanks Charles. Hey Bridget, welcome back. Long time no see. Thanks Bridget. Really appreciate it. Bridget says UK is desperate and he has to recycle positions with their cast-offs. Yes, exactly. 100% Bridget. But yeah, thanks for joining. I really have missed you, so welcome back. Hey Morpheus. Morpheus says there's many different Muslims in China, not just Uyghurs. Correct, 100% right. But I think Uyghurs are probably one of the majorities. That's why I think there's about 12 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and they are one of the majority Muslims there. That's probably why. Let's see what the. Hey Hong Chua. And that's it, guys. Can't see any other questions. So yeah, let's call it a day. I know. Hi, Jenny. Welcome, Jenny Lynn. So we'll call it a day. Thanks for joining, and really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll see you maybe tomorrow or the day after. I'll catch up with you guys again for the more latest stories happening around the world. So you take care of yourselves wherever you are in the world. Keep safe. As you know, the world is going crazy, and we're the only ones here trying to make sense out of it all. So take care for now, guys. It's a pleasure speaking with you guys, and I'll see you in the next stream. Take care. Bye.